Hello there, this is the news on NTA International, reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Stella Inamiti, and our sign language interpreter is Taiwo Ozoma. First, the headlines. Second Africa Climate Summit opens in Addis Ababa, leaders focusing on climate investment. Federal government makes a case for stronger continental response for Africa to eradicate Lassa fever. First Lady marks International Day to protect education, urges security agencies to do more to protect schools. Nepal Prime Minister resigns amid anti-corruption protests. Thanks for joining us. National Union, a report just reaching us indicates that the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers has suspended its nationwide strike after Dangote Refinery accepted unionization of its workers. This was the outcome of a meeting between representatives of the federal government, the organized labor and Dangote Group, where a memorandum of understanding was signed between all parties. The MOU states that the process of unionization shall commence immediately and will be completed within 2 weeks, 9th to 22nd of September 2025, that the employer will not set up any other union and no employee of Dangote Refinery and petrochemicals will be victimized. Parties will revert to the Minister of Labor in 2 weeks' time on the level of implementation of the MOU. African leaders and delegates converge on Addis Ababa for the second Africa Climate Summit, which opened with strong calls to shift the continent's focus from climate aid to climate investment, positioning Africa as a continent of solutions rather than a victim of climate change. Charles Alpha reports.
The Climate Summit is a critical platform shaping Africa's position ahead of the United Nations Global Conference that will be hosted by Brazil. African leaders introduced transformative initiatives, including the Africa Climate Innovation Compact, aimed at delivering 1,000 African climate solutions by 2030, and a framework tied to the Africa Green Industrialization Initiative, mobilizing over $100 billion for green industries. The event is spotlighting the green economy boom, driven by expanding solar installations and low-carbon investment, while underscoring the urgent need for massive climate finance to meet the continent's adaptation goals. Kenyan President William Ruto believes no nation can solve the climate crisis alone, but only through bold, united, and sustained collaborations. This is just as the host Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed highlighted the country's green legacy initiatives and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam as beacon of Africa-led climate solutions.
Only through bold, united, and sustained collaboration can we avert climate catastrophe. Isolation is not a winning strategy. It is courting failure.
Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a continental symbol of self-reliance, unity, and clean energy. It will provide over 5,000 megawatts of renewable power, lightening the way to fair energy for Ethiopia and East Africa.
The three-day event is featuring high-level sessions, ministerial dialogues, and side events. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Tenioye Majekodunu, the Director General of the National Council on Climate Change, is among the participants at the ongoing second Africa Climate Summit in Ethiopia. She now joins us live via Zoom. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Hello, good evening from Addis. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, if you can hear me, tell us the conversations leaders are making for the continent's climate future.
Fantastic. Can you confirm you can hear me? I can hear you.
Okay, we'd like you to tell us what decisions and conversations leaders are making for the continent's climate future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's been very clear. The message has been wonderful. It's been a fantastic 2 days so far. African leaders here are clear. We may have, Africa may contribute the least to climate change, but we have definitely faced its harshest impacts. And the focus here is on mobilizing climate finance, boosting renewable energy.
Earlier, I wasn't hearing her.
I'm speaking with one strong African voice ahead of COP30.
Okay, now, how is Nigeria leveraging its participation at the forum to attract climate finance and international partnerships for its adaptation and resilience programs?
Excellent question. Nigeria is truly showcasing its Climate Change Act and strong governance structures to attract investors and partners. And we're using these platforms to open doors for climate finance through all the normal ways, such as green bonds, concessional funding, and partnerships that support adaptation, resilience, and clean energy. We're also engaging in lots of bilateral and multilateral partners to channel concessional financing, and we're looking at all the key areas, especially in energy access, agriculture, and finance in general, as well as, most importantly, is the carbon markets. We're sharing our experiences in renewable energy and the green industrialization to be able to attract a lot more investors.
I'd also like to know what ways the Director General of Nigeria's National Council on Climate Change is shaping the continental dialogue on equitable climate solutions.
Thank you so much for that question. The opening ceremony was such a powerful session, and it was a use of visual arts is what they portrayed on the stage. And one thing that struck out to me the most throughout the art display was three main things, and one was the team spirit that was being portrayed, which shows trust. The last one was also the ability to be coordinated. And I think, that was such a fantastic analogy that the people of Ethiopia put together to have a fantastic opening ceremony for all of us to watch and really believe. And that has really shaped the input. It has also shaped the mindset of a lot of the leaders here today to be able to push for fairness, and Africa needs finance for adaptation as much as it does for mitigation. And as the DG of the National Council on Climate Change, my main goal is obviously just highlighting Nigeria's model of embedded climate action in law while ensuring the full whole of society approach, which is women, youth, state actors all have a seat at the table. Inclusivity is key, and as well as pushing to ensure a lot more of solutions that reflect Africa's diversity and realities are being carried along.
Okay, well said. Now, Kenya and Ethiopia are calling for climate investment rather than climate aid. Is Nigeria on the same page with them?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you tell us more about that?
Yes, definitely. In terms of pushing throughout mobilizing a lot more finance, Nigeria is working a lot more to boost our carbon markets. We also just completed the validation of our NDC 3.0, which really pushes for us to make sure we're achieving our targets as well as our national commitments, international and national commitments. And it's been so exciting to be able to get to this stage to make sure that no one was left behind. And we're able to achieve that by working together as a unified front and making sure that Africa definitely is ready and preparing ahead of COP30.
Okay, Tenyoye Makodunmi, Okay, thank you so much for correcting me. The Director General of the National Council on Climate Change. It's been a pleasure with you. Thanks for joining us. Now, moving on. Nigeria's Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, has urged West African nations to adopt a coordinated regional strategy to combat Lassa fever, warning that national efforts alone are insufficient to curb the disease's spread. Calvin Ebonwaye reports that the minister was speaking at the ECOWAS Regional Conference on Lassa fever in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire.
Lassa fever remains a serious public health threat, where 1 in 5 infections result in severe disease. It attacks several organs such as liver, spleen, and kidneys. Beyond its health implication, the lack of vaccine and absence of alternative drugs for Lassa fever management drive serious socio-economic consequences, particularly for rural communities. That is why Professor Pate said national successes in the control of the disease are not enough to stamp it out from the sub-region, and called for greater collaboration, commending ECOWAS for leading the charge.
Our strength lies in the unity of our responses, in the willingness of our nations to work together, to share knowledge, and to coordinate resources to protect the health of our people. Across West Africa, Lassa fever continues to pose serious threats to lives, livelihoods, and health systems.
Different categories of technical sessions have been slated to discuss critical areas of Lassa fever control and management in the sub-region, with focus on vaccine development. In Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, Kelvin Ebonwaye, NTA News.
France's parliament brought down the government over plans to tame the swelling national debt, deepening a political crisis that is weakening the Eurozone's second largest economy. And Côte d'Ivoire's Constitutional Council disqualifies 2 prominent opposition figures from contesting the forthcoming presidential election. Charles Afar reports.
Lawmakers voted to oust Prime Minister Francois and his minority government with 364 votes against the veteran centrist politician and 194 in his favor. President Emmanuel Macron, who is facing calls from the opposition to dissolve parliament and resign, reports say will instead hunt for his 5th prime minister in less than 2 years. His office said he would appoint one in the next few days. The next government's most pressing task will be to pass a budget, the same challenge Francois Bayrou faced when he took office 9 months ago. Securing the backing of a very divided parliament will be equally hard. You have the power to bring down the government, but you do not have the power to erase reality, Bayrou told lawmakers before losing the confidence vote. He said reality will remain relentless. Expenses will continue to rise, and the burden of debt, already unbearable, will grow heavier and more costly. Bayrou tenders his resignation on Tuesday, his office said. He had called the confidence vote to try to win parliamentary support for his strategy to lower a deficit that stands at nearly double the European Union's 3% ceiling and to start tackling a debt pile equivalent to 114% of GDP. The French President Emmanuel Macron could now nominate a politician from his own centrist minority ruling group or from the ranks of conservatives as the next premier. But that will mean doubling down on a strategy that has failed to yield a stable alliance. Similarly, Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has said that he will step down after less than a year in power, during which he lost his majority in both houses of parliament. Ruling party lawmakers in Japan prepared their bids to replace outgoing Premier Shigeru Ishiba on Monday, as financial markets recoiled on the political uncertainty and the possibility of his successor ramping up government spending. Ishiba recalled his brief tenure on Sunday, saying he was taking responsibility for bruising elections that saw his ruling coalition lose its majority in both houses of parliament amid voter anger over rising living costs. In Africa, Côte d'Ivoire's Constitutional Council has disqualified 2 prominent opposition figures from contesting the forthcoming presidential election. The disqualified candidates are former President Laurent Gbagbo and Tejani Thiam. Both candidates had submitted their formal bids as they challenged the 83-year-old incumbent. The council responsible for finalizing the candidate list approved 5 bids for the October 2025. The decision has heightened tensions in the West African nation, where several opposition leaders have already been sidelined by court rulings. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. We'll take a break now. When we return, more reports. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Nigeria has restated commitments to strengthening the country's bold economic reforms that are geared towards industrialization. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this at the 66th Annual Conference of the Nigerian Economic Society held in Abuja. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
Rethinking Africa's development pathways to economic transformation and social inclusion in a changing global economic landscape is the theme of the 66th Annual Conference of the Nigerian Economic Society. Participants drawn from 22 African countries at this meeting brainstorming on how to harness technology towards scaling capacity development and social inclusion to co-create policy dialogues in advancing Africa's transformation.
We believe we can make a significant contribution to the ongoing economic reforms. We recognize that the reforms of the past 2 years have stabilized our economy and repositioned it for sustainable growth. However, these reforms will be complemented by adequate social investments and measures to shield the economy from deindustrialization and increase dependence on food imports.
This whole consists of those who should lead the paradigm shift in drawing attention to what we must do differently and urgently. And luckily, they have the material because of what has been done in Nigeria in the last 2.5 years.
The livestock sector today, I want to tell you, is the next crude oil after the crude oil.
This moment is so symbolic, and it is being performed by 3 pillars of our economic community.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is among the 14 awardees conferred with the Society's highest award, Fellow of the Nigerian Economic Society. President Bola Tinubu remains committed to diversifying the Nigerian economy, as Vice President Kashim Shettima described the Nigerian leader as a man with the political will to take bold decisions.
To catch up with this changing world, Africa must embrace structural transformation that reinvents its human capital and reverse unemployment. Poverty must be confronted head-on, for the promise of this continent to be realized in the lives of our people. There is no justification for the low per capita income that afflicts our nations amid the resources at our disposal. We are in a position to harness our youth bulge and transform them into demographic dividends instead of the much feared demographic disaster that is expected to consume all of us.
Vice President Shettima assures that Nigeria has a unique position to fill with its youthful population, and the Tinubu administration is ready to work with stakeholders in turning Nigeria's potential into global assets. In Abuja, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has stated that President Tinubu's recent temporary suspension of raw share exports is a bold and strategic measure aimed at opening up the vast economic potential of Nigeria's share industry and positioning the country as a global leader in the share economy. Represented by the Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, Malam Jibrin Babandas, at the 20th Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria Northern Zonal Accountants Conference in Minna, the minister said the decision is not a mere policy experiment, but a bold and forward-looking measure aimed at unlocking the full potential of rural economy by insisting that Nigeria's share, which accounts for over 50% of the world's share production, does not remain a supplier of raw materials, but becomes a global leader in high-value share products by encouraging local produce. Today marks the International Day to Protect Education from Attack. This UN-designated day highlights a grim global reality. Schools, students and teachers are increasingly becoming targets in conflict zones. According to UNESCO, these attacks are occurring at an alarming rate, robbing millions of a crucial lifeline, life-saving skills and hope for the future. Frama Panyi has this report.
Attacks on education strip students of their fundamental rights to learn and prevent teachers from doing their vital work. To address this crisis, the UN General Assembly established this day in 2020 and set September 9th every year to mark the day, underscoring the urgent need to safeguard schools during wartime. UNESCO and UNICEF lead the annual observance, raising awareness and inspiring action to support education communities in conflict zones. In Nigeria, for instance, the situation in the northeast is one that requires an urgent purpose to return displaced children back to school.
Conflict, climate change, poor policies are all affecting education in this country. Just this year, students in Abuja primary schools did not go to school for 3 months because salaries of teachers were not paid. And these are like the most disadvantaged kids. We are indeed in an education crisis in Nigeria.
But women and children are the most affected by illiteracy in the world today. So when you ask me what can be done, there's a lot of intentionality that has to go into education. There needs to be a plan. Nothing happens without a solid plan.
6 years on, the problem is worsening. Armed conflict continues to escalate globally. Marking the day this year, UNESCO is hosting a high-level event in Geneva under the theme, Challenging Narratives, Reshaping Action. Armed conflicts have a devastating impact, turning places of learning into targets and battlegrounds. International law is clear. Schools must be safe havens. International humanitarian law mandates the protection of educational facilities, a principle reinforced by UN Security Council resolution.
There's a lot of investment. There's also a lot of ideology change that needs to go into education, grassroots approach. And I would say that my call would be to Nigeria to say that we deserve better, our citizens deserve better. Education should not just be used as a means of, garnering funds to go into other aspects that are undocumented.
The message today is clear. Education must be protected even during war. Frama Panyi, NTA News.
National scholars under the Renewed Hope Initiative National Scholarship Program have taken delivery of a third tranche of 1 million naira to further aid their academic pursuit. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu handed out the fund along with brand new laptops during a midterm assessment and interactive session with the scholars. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo reports that beyond the scholarship, beneficiaries also got tips on early start in business.
They emerged national scholars under the Renewed Hope Initiative National Scholarship Program in 2023. An initial sum of 1 million naira and a laptop delivered to them to support their educational pursuit.
The money given to you is a lot, but that doesn't mean that you should go and become lazy.
What started out then as sponsorship evolved into mentorship at this midterm assessment and interactive session held by Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu with the scholars. The session, which saw the First Lady heading a panel and engaging directly with the scholars, seeks to measure impact and, more importantly, raise unusual students who intentionally combine learning with earning.
I want to ask you, what do you also add to the table?
That question, followed by a submission, shaped the content of the interactive session as the First Lady, drawing from personal experiences, harped on the need for the scholars to exploit the environment by undertaking small business ventures.
Do something to add to what you've already been given. It's good for you to learn a skill or something that can help you.
I just want to encourage you, just put more effort and be a source of pride and ambassadors of Renewed Hope Initiative.
The computer that Renewed Hope Initiative this has given to you, this is your gateway to the world.
Therefore, if you have the skills, don't just keep it to yourself. Try and do something so that people will see what you can do.
And never look at the money and say, oh, the money is too small. And also remember that not all money is good money.
Also, in today's world, we have remote working. So check for opportunities for remote work wherever you're not entrepreneurial, and you can pick up hours.
I would advise you to always save, trust God, and stay focused.
The panel was not disappointed, as feedback from the cohort of 47 scholars indicates that a new crop of entrepreneurs is already in the making.
For the past 2 years, I've been a professional graphic designer.
How much do you earn?
So for students, it can be around maybe 7,000 to 10,000 per job, but for people that are not students, maybe 20,000.
I sell jewelries in the hostel. I sell female wears. I engage in cooking in bulk, and I also engage in industrial cleaning. That's what I do to support
And
myself.
you sell to your fellow students too?
Yes, ma'am.
Very smart.
Question and answer session soon gave way to another round of empowerment as the scholars received another 1 million naira, marking the third tranche in their scholarship from RHI, along with a brand new laptop, courtesy of National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA. It is expected to serve as a fresh motivation for the scholars to study and work. From the banquet hall of the presidential villa, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
And that's the size of our bulletin for now. Thanks for watching. I am Stella Inamiti Taiwo Ozoma, the sign language interpreter.